Wistoria Wanted Sword has completely surprised me in how much of a banger it's been this season. Because every week this show keeps getting better and better, and Will Serfort keeps winning people over, and I think we need to start covering this series weekly. Today we're talking about why Wistoria Wanted Sword has become one of the biggest breakout animes of the season, and why fans are connecting with Will Serfort so much, why the comparisons to Black Clover are almost impossible to ignore, and why I genuinely think this anime deserves way more attention than it was getting, and it's finally getting that. We're also going to discuss why the underdog formula still works, and why Will has become one of the most likable protagonists this season, and the actual story and world building of Wistoria, and whether this series has the potential to become one of the next major fantasy franchises. And if you enjoy anime, manga reviews, deep dives, and manga coverage, make sure to like and subscribe because we cover anime and manga bangers weekly. So going into part 1, what is Wistoria? For people who haven't watched it yet, the premise is actually pretty simple. The world of Wistoria is built entirely around magic. Everyone revolves around it. Status, power, respect, opportunity, like the entire world is fully built on this self-system. Think of like Black Clover. And if you have magic, you're valuable. And if you don't, you're basically viewed as a failure. Even for the people who have magic, there's a hierarchy. And that's where we meet Will Serfort, a boy who cannot use magic in a society where magic determines your entire future. And immediately you understand why people connect with him. Because Will starts his journey with absolutely nothing. No reputation, no magical gifts, no shortcuts, and no secret noble status. This man is a joke. The only thing that he has is his determination, which again is similar to Black Clover, and a promise to reach the tower and stand beside Elfaria once again, because that is his best friend and also his secret lover. And honestly, that simple premise is the foundation of everything this story does. People love underdogs, and I don't care how many years pass, I think anime fans just love an underdog story. We love Naruto Uzumaki, Izuku Midoriya, Asta obviously, and now Will Serfort I think is kind of folding into that mold. Because underneath all the flashy transformation and cool fights, people connect with the effort, the struggle, and connect with someone being told you can't do this and doing it anyway. That's Will's entire identity. Now we obviously have to address the elephant in the room that everybody says it. Wistoria is just Black Clover, but a little bit better in the beginning, you know, and stuff like that. And honestly, like, I understand why. A powerless protagonist, a magic-focused society, constant discrimination, and a dream everyone says is impossible, a protagonist who refuses to quit, yada yada yada, it is very familiar to Black Clover. But I actually think that's it's actually a compliment. Because Black Clover became one of the biggest modern shonen stories for a reason. The difference is how Asta and Will approach their struggles differently. Asta kicks the front door down, Asta screams, he chases forward. Will is actually a lot quieter, he's more emotional, he's more tactical, a lot more reserved in that regard, and internalizes his pain. Both characters represent the same thing, the refusal to accept limitations, but they do it from different angles. And that's exactly why so many Black Clover fans are also falling in love with this anime. Because it's a different perspective on the same story that we kind of do love. And here's the thing, I think that's why it's working. I don't think people are just watching Wistoria just because Will is the underdog. I think they're watching because the story itself is really compelling. At first glance, it sounds simple. A boy that can't use magic and wants to reach the top. But when you go into that a little bit deeper, that's actually not what Wistoria is about. Because underneath the fantasy action, the story is actually about rising to expectations, social class, and having a legacy. And what happens when someone refuses to accept the role society assigns to them. The tower is more important than people actually realize, because one of the most important parts of this series is the tower, because it's not just a location, but it's a symbol of status. And all of part 1 is literally spent just trying to get to that topic, the bottom half of the tower. And at the top of the Magia Vander, the strongest mages in the world and the people who protect humanity, the living legends. And every student dreams of reaching that level, but Will doesn't really want it, he needs it. Because unlike everybody else, Will's dream isn't even about powers, it's about keeping a promise to his baddie. Elfaria is the heart of this story, because I think a lot of people overlook how important Elfaria is, because she's not always in the story and in the action. Because in a lesser story, she'd just simply be the girl that the hero likes. But in this story, she's the emotional core of the entire series, and the reason why Will does what he even does. Will isn't even climbing the tower because of fame or social status or any of that stuff. He's literally just climbing for Elfaria. And I think season 2 is exploding right now, because the world is finally starting to feel a little bit bigger now that we're finally starting to see what the tower is actually about. From academy life to rankings and classes, tests and rivalries, we're finally seeing that the story is expanding. Because the tower isn't just a small little area or like a one-off linear spot, but it's actually got a lot of politics, ancient threats, and mysteries surrounding that world. And suddenly the story isn't just the academy anymore, it's preparation. And that's when Wistoria finally starts feeling like less of a school anime and more a beginning of a fantasy epic. And every great fantasy series needs the end goal, so Magia Vanders are great. Naruto had the Hokage, Black Clover was the Wizard King, Bleach had the Captain, so now obviously Wistoria having Magia Vander is great, but there's also a larger story at play, because the Magia Vanders also have another faction that we're starting to learn about. And now the real question is, which Magia Vander is going to even notice him? Right now in Season 2, we're hitting that stride right now, and it's a lot of fun seeing Will go back and forth figuring out where he's going to be. Season 1 was good, but I think Season 2 is where things are actually getting serious. Because now we're getting bigger stakes, deeper world building, and stronger emotional moments, and new powers, new mysteries. But we're also seeing more from characters like Colette. We're seeing more from Julia's Lahana. And one thing I love is that these characters aren't just background decoration. They genuinely care about Will, or they're genuinely reacting to his growth, and they support him and they challenge him. Something I did think that Black Clover was missing was a little bit more challenge from the insider cast. That makes the viewers even more invested into the success. And honestly, I think that's when you know an anime is going to do something right. When it actually has the side cast that's supposed to be the supporting cast actually doing supporting. And the people aren't just watching for the fights anymore, but they're watching because they genuinely care about what's going to happen next. And when you couple that with the visuals in this show, good lord, it is so nice. Like, it looks incredible. The sword combat, the transformation, the choreography, and the impact frame, every major fight feels important. But that's huge, because Wistoria delivers spectacle almost every single week. But the biggest strength of this entire series, I don't even think is the animation, but I think it is that emotional investment. You want to see Will win. You want to see him reunite with Elfaria. You want to see him prove everyone wrong, and the emotional investment does heavily carry the series. But I know, to be fair, there are criticisms that anime is definitely not perfect. I think some people do find that Will is too familiar of a protagonist, the premise isn't groundbreaking, and the Black Clover comparisons are unavoidable. Honestly, to me, these are fair criticisms, but my response is not every anime needs to reinvent storytelling. Sometimes execution matters more than originality, and Wistoria executes its formula really well. And I don't think every fantasy anime has to reinvent the wheel. I think overall it's the underdog formula, the production quality, the emotional core, and the timing of this show that's really allowing it to succeed so much. And if you haven't seen it already, you're missing out, because a lot of fans were already looking for the next fantasy series to obsess over, and Wistoria arrived right at the perfect moment. So overall, should we be covering this weekly? I think absolutely. With the mystery that's going on about what's the meaning of the sword versus the meaning of the magic. New world building and new theories. I think I'm having a lot of fun watching this series. So at its core, I think Wistoria isn't just succeeding because it's one of the most revolutionary anime ever made. I think it's succeeding because it understands something timeless. People will always root for the person who has no business standing among the giants, but refuses to stop climbing anyway. That's why Naruto worked, that's why Black Clover works, that's why Rocky worked, and that's why this works. But what do you guys think? Is Wistoria one of the best anime airing out right now? Does it deserve all the hype? And should we keep covering it weekly? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're new here, I make daily anime manga videos and other deep dives that you can check out above. And if you're looking for the best space anime, you gotta check out Space Dandy above. And if you're looking for the next big shonen hit, check out my review on Ultimate Exes Kyoshi, because real talk, that's probably gonna be the next anime banger in 2027. So you gotta catch up now while the manga's hot. But yeah, let me guys know. I love Wistoria. I think the formula has been outstanding, and the animation, the emotional core of this series is outstanding. So I truly believe this is going to be the next anime banger. The only thing that really sucks is that I hear the chapters are monthly. So monthlies do tend to have a hard time getting fans, because obviously it's hard to keep up with a monthly thing. But, you guys have to decide if you're going to catch up with it. I'm probably going to start reading the monthly. But either way, I make daily anime manga videos. Let me know what I need to talk about next.